What's up? This is for the old heads and for the young people, man. We got to educate them. That's why we tell them about shows like Gimme a Break. Give me a break, yeah, yeah. Give me a break, cause I sure need one. Yeah, yeah. I'm finding out what I'm finding out. Give me a break. Give me a break. That's all I gotta tell you two, man. Give me a break. My notifications ain't hurting you. So now let's get into this. Nell Carter, okay, was who they created the show around. Now they had the original producers of the show. I think it was Rob Parker, not Rod Parker, not Rob, and Mort Lockman. They're the ones who originally, I think, created this show. And this is back when NBC was trying to get more diverse. This is in the 80s, 1980. And they saw a woman with so much energy and so much sweetness and glow. They said, this woman can sing. And she was on Broadway and theater. And she blew everybody away with the Broadway performance at the musical. And she just won the Tony Award for Best Performance by an actress in a musical that ain't misbehaving. And everyone saw it on prime time television, where she got the Emmy Award for playing the role on television. But this was later down the road. When she did it on stage, it blew away people, the producers, and they wanted to make a show, a television show about, and around Nell Carter. And they already had the script of her taking care of three daughters that was left to this police sergeant whose wife had just passed of cancer, and they were best friends. And it had so much heart into it. So Give Me a Break was written for Nell Carter. And the fact that Nell Carter grew up, Alabama, Birmingham, singing roots, and she was doing her thing. And she was very extraordinary. I mean, she was somebody who went through a lot. So making this show was a breakout for her because it was such a stretch where people get to see her character development live on stage. And it did so much, it did way beyond what they thought they were going to get. So Give Me a Break, they thought was, the only way they can get away with doing this show and for the ratings to do well is to make it late night. See, black shows, or what they would call black movies or black TV sitcoms, black people seem to stay up later than whites. So let's put this show on around 9 p.m. So trying to find a slot where they thought they were gunning for an 8 to 8:30 slot, it winded up being a 9:30 to 10 o'clock. They were thinking, my goodness, this is super late. Why would you put this on at 9:30 at night? You don't think this thing is going to work. They was like, look, this is a weeknight. If we put this show on a weeknight, there's no way we could swing at 8 o'clock stance. So what they do, they came out and said, let's just start the show. They put the show on at 9:30 at night to 10. 30-minute episodes, the very first season. And it was a hit on Thursday night. The African American crowd took it to win to it. They had Thelma on there, and she was great. Thelma Hopkins, who you know from Family Matters. This was the show that really got her going. Joey Lawrence, this is the show that built his career. And the chief, played by Dolph Sweet, the police chief. And it was great to watch this because what you were seeing was the show take its own form of development. The show was moving in such a direction that many of the people there were they were either they were either new to acting and only have acted in very small forms. So as it started to develop and move forward, the show centered around Nell being the housekeeper, taking care of the people there. But Nell was trying to have her own life, and all the episodes was based on Nell and her friend Thelma Hopkins' character going out trying to find men, and Nell losing weight, and all of these different things that she was battling on the show. Like, come on now, you gotta lose weight. This is like an episode. It was like the running episode joke on there. Some black people thought the show was offensive, but the show really had a lot of heart, and it focused in on Nell's singing talents. She had Whitney Houston on this show. A lot of people didn't know that, but Whitney Houston appeared on this show. Sammy Davis Jr., the Pointer Sisters, Ray Parker Jr., and they would all do a musical or sing. She always had brought some people from Tony, and it always ended with something with Nell singing. But nothing was more epic than one episode when the youngest daughter on there, Sam, had to do something that television wasn't prepared for. And oh, will we get to that. But let's take the baby steps. After the first season, they were excited. They said, man, look at this ratings at 9 o'clock. If we move this show up, 9:30, maybe if we move it up, we can really do some things here. So weekday, they felt, you guys want to bump up. There's nothing we can move out of the way right now. So I tell you what, let's put them on Saturday nights at 9 o'clock and see what happens. Black people like to watch TV late at night on Saturdays. Still, catering to just an African American audience. So, even though the show kicks right back off in season 2, what they're noticing is the numbers are doing much better at 9 o'clock. The number of Caucasians watching it is high as well. This is not a show that was just watched by African Americans. This show had taken off and gotten its own legs. Now, moving forward, the episodes and the show was going to take a turn of its own. Because all of the success, they decided to do a Ain't Misbehaving special in which Nell Carter was there. All of the extra pressure and dealing with the studios and having to get up in the morning and go to work every day and do all this and prepare for the special. Nell Carter, the star of this entire show, is starting to have trouble. She's fatigued. And someone offered her the white man's aspirin. Yep, blow. And she took a sniffy of that blow, and oh, won't you know, She was gone to cloud nine. Now, what that did was open up a lot of doors to a lot of doors she had closed in her life. Many people did not know Nell Carter was raped at 16 years of age. And through this attacks, she had a daughter, which she kept and she loved till her dying days. And all of that pain from that incident was coming up. And it was starting to affect her going into the third season. The third season, they decided to move it to Thursday nights. They said, you know what, we're going back to Thursday nights now. And now that other show is over, we're coming in strong at 9 o'clock. So let's get ready for that push. Let's push for that 9 o'clock. Everybody get ready because we're pushing for the 9 o'clock. So they get everything up and they're trying to film the episodes and it's not going well. You know, she's snapping at people, she's leaving early, and they're like, this is getting to be a problem. Something's wrong with her. And some people knew that it's the drugs. She started drinking more, and she's slurring her words, and it's time for her to sing in certain parts, and she's just not on point, and she's working with it. And they was like, something's wrong with Nell. So they canceled, like, shooting for a while, which ticks off the other actors because, you know, they all ready to do their bits and parts, but now it's a little bit more concern for Nell because, you know, the studio can decide to cancel the show, which is a hit. So to cancel a show that's a hit will be massive at this time. You don't have anything ready, so they got to get her well. And a friend of hers just came there, grabbed her, put her in a hospital until she got better. But all those things that happened to her in her past, those demons started to come back up and just depress her so much that she had to, years later, they made her go on one of those talk shows with Barbara Walters, and it's all about her entire life and what was going on with her. Back then, the thing is, it started to leak out. Somebody found wind of it. See, there wasn't no social media back then, so you weren't going to know too much about it unless you was like plugged in. You weren't going to really know what was going on at the time because there was no social media. So it found out, people started to find out and leak stuff out, and like almost a year later or a few months later, so stories were starting to leak out. So that's when the studio made her get ahead of it. And back then, that's what they did. They go out and do an interview. So if anybody do create their own stories, the truth will already be out there. So now, here's the narrative. This is the situation that actually happened. She went back to work. They all hugged her and was glad to see her back, and they were concerned for her, and the show took off. They went to doing the show, and it was no problems. And the show went to record heights. Then NBC was working on another show at the time that was getting ready to air on Thursday nights. And it was called The Cosby Show. Which was focused around jazz. But this was going to be an all-black cast. And do you know that even though they saw Bill Cosby's performance when he did the stand-up, I think they heard his concert album, he did the stand-up performance, I think himself, and the studios loved it, and they worked on bringing him over to NBC for this deal. The strength of Give Me a Break and those numbers that Give Me a Break did opened up the door for them to really back the Cosby Show, which was an all-black show, an all-black family on television, on a major network during the times that this doesn't normally happen. Most of you guys think like, okay, that ain't nothing. No, this is on a major network at a major time in the day. So the Cosby Show's doors was opened by the success of Give Me a Break. Ta-da! Now, with that, the show is going on in the third season. They said we need to change something during this third season. In the third season, they added a little boy named Joey. So they had Joey on the show, played by Joey Lawrence. So this was way before Blossom and way before Whoa. Most of you probably still don't know what I'm talking about. But anyway, for those who do, that was way before that. So his brother Matthew was on there, and they were foster kids. And Nell decided to adopt Joey. So Joey was the adopted kid on the show. And it went from there, and she adopted Joey. And now you had your little boy Joey Lawrence on the show. And it brought a new flavor to it. It was too many grown women. Like, they were teenage girls. And Sam was the one, like, in 7th and 8th grade when her best friend passed away from cancer. And she made a promise that Nell would always be there to help mother and take care of the kids. So they've known Nell their entire life. So while the chief goes to work, does what he do, you know, nothing changed for the chief. So as the story was going along, Chief was very old school, very old-fashioned. And they always tried to warm the chief up and do things for the chief to change Chief's mind on certain things. And what they didn't know, and what Chief was holding from them, is in the 4th season, you know, you could notice he was a little bit thinner. He was thinner in the face, the neck, and his clothes weren't really fitting him the same way, and something was wrong with the chief. And no one could put their finger on it, but something was definitely wrong with the chief. So as everybody was trying to figure out what's wrong with the chief, you know, eventually they told people that Chief's been battling cancer. But he's all right, you know. So as the episodes were coming out, Chief was seen kind of less and less. He was just popping up in certain episodes doing certain things. And more of the focus was with Joey and Grandpa, played by John Hoyt, who was great. He was great as Grandpa. So a lot of those scenes was with those two. And there was a episode in a cliffhanger at the end of season 4 where the middle child comes home and the dad opens the door and the middle child tells the dad, played by Dolph Sweet, played the chief, that she just up and got married. to this new guy. And that's where it concluded. And that would be the last episode of The Chief, as the Chief passed away in 85. So after the 4th season and the Chief passed away, they were on the Thursday 8 to 8:30 slot. The Cosby Show came in and basically took over. So when the Cosby Show came out, they bumped Gimme a Break, who had 4 seasons in, and with the death of the Chief, they moved the show to Saturday nights. But they were going to move it to 8:30 on Saturdays to appease the people there. And they were like, we're going to go at 8:30 on Saturdays, and they were not happy. People were not happy being moved to Saturday after having so much success. But with the death of the Chief, nobody kind of knew how the show would progress without Chief, you know, being on the show. And it's just now in the direction the show decided to go in. So they made it as if her announcement gave the Chief a heart attack and the Chief dies. So they killed Chief off in the show originally as they planned. I mean, as it wasn't planned. You know, he ended up dying, so they rewritten a lot of the script. And they had the middle child's character, that news, killed Chief, which was hard. You know, they had to go through the grieving episode of the Chief being gone, and they did that whole tribute episode, and then they changed the storyline from that point on, adding this husband into the family now. So he was written into the script, and, you know, that interaction with Chief and him was, you know, null and void. But let's get back to that episode that was involving the young daughter. And probably one of the most talked about episodes on Give Me a Break. One of the most talked about episodes is the one when the younger daughter, Sam, who had most of the dialogue with Nell because she was the youngest girl. And they wanted to keep the focus on younger more than older. The middle child was great. The oldest child, she just really didn't connect to a lot of people. But Sam, the youngest daughter, she was the tomboyish girl who ended up liking, just becoming a boy-crazed girl when she got older. Now, anyway, Sam decides she wanted to go out to this party, or this unchaperoned party with boys, and Nell wouldn't let that happen. So to get back at Nell, you know, her and Joey always did these musicals and things like that, because Joey Lawrence was always into music and dance. So here they are, they're doing some musical number together, and they're getting ready for one of Nell's church, you know, shows where they perform at the church. And Sam, angry at Nell, decides to get back at her by putting Joey in blackface and having him go out on stage and dance with Nell with blackface on. So people see that and they just, it was the most shocking thing. And Joey didn't know what he was doing. He's like, Sam said you were like this, Nell. And man, it was the most powerful episode on television. You cannot do something like that. And to do that on national television in the 80s was such a risk on network television. It is one of probably the top 50 episodes ever shot on television. I can remember every black household talking about that episode and that moment when that she did that, everybody who used to love Sam, man, I would have beat Sam up. They need to get the belt. I would have wore her out. Yeah, everybody was hot watching that show. So, Give Me a Break continued for another 2 seasons, and it ran its course. It did its thing, in other words. Um, they stayed on Saturdays to about the end. And can you believe they got 6 seasons out of this show? 6 seasons. And in their final season, they were on Wednesday nights, and then they finished. They were bouncing from Wednesday to Tuesday, and they finished off on a Tuesday night. And that was the end. A 6-season successful show. Give Me a Break, which opened the doors to the Cosby Show and other episodes. And you might find a lot of these episodes on YouTube. So definitely check out Give Me a Break if you hadn't already. And thank you for your time. Don't forget, you could always support the page by hitting up my Cash App, which is Carcino, or you could hit the link in the description box, and definitely hit the donate button in the Streamlab. You could join our Patreon. There's a lot of different things you could do. But I'm out. Y'all have a blessed day. Deuces.